You are now listening to PODCORN, Episode 3, for April 17th, 2013.
Welcome to PODCORN Podcast with Amy Reeder and Brandon Montclair.
PODCORN Podcast is not your oversight, just PODCORN.
Oh, sorry, I was trying to use my radio voice.
Comics PODCORN?
Yes. Why does it sound like porn to me? Does it sound like porn to you?
You're the one who made up the name.
I know, but every time I say the word PODCORN, I'm afraid that I've just said something really naughty.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's like, I keep thinking that I'm saying it wrong and I said something naughty instead. What are we gonna do about it? But anyway, so today we are going to review an issue of Sandman. Issue number, what was it? Like 8?
It's 8, yeah. I think I might have said 9 building up to it, but 8. It's the death issue. It's after the first arc is kind of done, right? It's the last story in the first collection.
It's pretty memorable. I think a lot of people...
Oh, it's when the whole series changed. I mean, I don't think we're like being so super clever to pull out this one issue. Do you?
No.
Review is not the right word, though.
Yeah, no, we're just, I guess, reflecting upon it or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
we're not evaluating whether it succeeded.
We're going to PODCORN it.
We're going to PODCORN it.
Did you say something dirty just then?
I feel like I did. there's so much guilt every time I say the word PODCORN.
The Sound of Her Wings. That's the title.
Yes.
Obviously by Neil Gaiman.
Yes.
And that's by then, Sam Keith was long gone, so it was Mike Dringenberg and Malcolm Jones also
Wait, how do you say his name?
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it. I always say Dringenberg, but that's obviously not even how it's spelled.
He's German, right?
Yeah.
It's Dringenberg.
Dringenberg.
Yeah.
I thought there was 2 D's in there somehow.
No, I mean, it should be Dringenberg. Yeah, because you can't go Dringenberg. It has to, or Dringenberg, it's just Dringenberg.
Somebody check that and get back to us.
Let us know. So, yeah, it's taking place in Washington Square Park, which was kind of cool, because Brandon and I both live near it, like, it's between us.
You live southwest of it.
Mm-hmm.
I live northeast of it.
Yep.
You're a little bit closer than me.
Yeah.
But it's in the neighborhood. You are 5 minutes away. I'm less than 10 minutes away.
Yeah. Kind of known for... Well, now it's kind of known for being the center of NYU.
Yeah, well, it's in Greenwich Village. It's always been associated with NYU forever and ever. NYU's been here for
associated with drugs, too, right?
Not
Getting
really.
high?
Nah.
Hippie movement?
Sure.
Hipsters?
No, yeah. I mean, you can... It's not Tompkins Square Park, that would be... more so, not with hipsters, but...
Well, I can still walk through the park and I know where I would go if I wanted something.
Sure.
I can tell. They just hang out in one spot.
Oh, they ask you straight up.
Well, that's only happened to me once.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and it was like late at night and this guy's just kind of staring at me as I walk past and he's like, smoke, 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 smoke.
But if we're ever together, they always ask us all the time.
I seriously never noticed.
All right.
So maybe I'm just deaf.
We were once with Ross Campbell. And got solicited.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, we did.
I don't think we did. I remember them.
And it was another girl.
I remember people saying funny stuff. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, it's kind of like a nice hangout zone. And who does he end up hanging out with but his sister Death, who visits?
Yeah, and like I said, I would go, for background, I would start with first 7 issues was Sandman locked in the bubble. That's really the first issue. And then the things that were stolen from him, he has to reacquire. And they deal with other aspects of the DC universe. Constantine, even the Justice League, the Golden Age Sandman. So it was kind of like a regular... It wasn't a regular comic book because I wouldn't do it justice. Sandman was always very different.
It was very occult, that's for sure.
It was very much genre, I would say, right? It's a kind of straight up mystical story. It deals with a lot of different aspects of DC continuity. Cain and Abel, a whole bunch of stuff, which are all pre-existing characters. And he's kind of finished with it, and it's like... so we get to Sandman 8, he certainly said, I'm going to take it in my own direction.
Yeah, I mean, that's really brave, I mean, especially mid-story. It's the kind of thing that you always want to do, And it's really great that he followed his heart. People love him for it now. That's what he's known for.
I don't know if he's known for following his heart. He's known for being a great writer, but maybe that's what a great writer does,
Yeah, well, like he's nobody's slave. He just does it all.
And I don't mean to give all the credit to Neil Gaiman and not the artists, but
Especially Mike Dringenberg.
Mhm.
I think it's a rendering level that you don't normally see in comics, or didn't at that point and haven't since, because it's like thin lines, but a lot of black. And I like thin lines, and I like the fact that like he thinks realistically. Sometimes he uses photos, so
For sure.
And he's very inconsistent, I would say. But
he's rock and roll, It's not, he ain't thinking.
Yeah,
he's not thinking about consistency.
Yeah, he's just doing it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of envious, honestly. Yeah, no, I think the art's nice. I think the colors are like colors back in the day, which means I don't like them. But
they tried to obviously remaster them, not change them, remaster the old colors for the new editions.
I think mine are remastered. The copy that I have.
I liked the remastered stuff because it's separated a little better and you could see stuff that you originally missed. But on the fancier, glossier paper, it's like, well, I'd rather have... I find that a lot with like the older comics, that if you have that old kind of print remastered on slick paper, it just doesn't look good. You need the kind of faded newsprint to make it work.
I actually think the reason why is because those kind of colors don't match the line work anyway. You should have something with texture.
Well, they didn't have textures back then.
I know, so they should recolor it. They should really... Stuff like that should have a lot of white in it. Stuff that's rendered like that. And it should be very watercolory. That's my opinion.
Sure, but what are you going to do? You're going to go recolor stuff? That's like someone's going to recolor your Batwoman cover one day. You know what I mean? Because it's not...
Well, but I colored that myself. Mike Dringenberg didn't, choose out the colors. You know what I mean? So it's not like I'm butchering it.
Well, I wouldn't want to say that Vazzo butchered any of the Sandman stuff. It was, it was the process back then. And I'm pretty sure he's the one who remastered it all, too. So... Yeah, I mean, that's not cool to recolor. It is what it is. But see, I think when they collect it on the nicer paper, on the slicker stuff... You don't think it would be
cool if I just did that for fun on a page?
I think if you... No, of course, that stuff's always fun. But I think if you picked up a bunch of ratty old issues with the yellowing newsprint paper, it would fit more. It wouldn't look as jarring as maybe the trade paperback presentation.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know.
And I don't think this is revelatory. I mean, I think anybody who reads it kind of tells. It's like, it's kind of... It's an aspect of Gaiman, or, if not him himself, right? Saying, oh, well, I kind of have done everything, and I'm kind of just feeling flat right now.
Do you think that he literally wrote this kind of for himself?
At least, I mean, I don't know him well enough, and I don't know if he's on record saying it, but certainly a piece of him is in it, right? Because Sandman is going to move on as well, It's what am I going to do with my life is basically the whole point of this story, and that's interesting that what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do with this comic book series? Gaiman's the one consistent, voice throughout the whole series.
No, I really love this issue, and I read Sandman for work because I was doing Madame Xanadu, and I knew that they wanted me to draw death in a few issues, so I decided to read the whole Sandman series because I knew that everybody loved death so much. So yeah, then I was reading this, and honestly, it was really hard for me to follow. I mean, I didn't know any of the DC continuity. And so I'm going through all the issues, and it's just a difficult read, and then I get to this issue, and it's just like, it's so open, it's such a breath of fresh air for me.
Well, it literally opens up, too. For people not familiar with Washington Square Park, that kind of circle is a fountain, right?
Yeah.
The fountain's not always on. It's not on here in this issue, right? It's large, and it's drawn pretty much to scale pretty accurately. But it's just a very large circle, with the steps kind of going down into what would be filled with water in the fountain. But like I said, the fountain's often not on.
Yeah.
And a lot of people hang out just like that, sitting on the steps, sitting on the bunker. And the artist, Dringenberg, and I should be able to pronounce his name, otherwise it's going to be a mess all issue long. But very spare with the art, right?
Yeah.
Just very, just kind of like arcs of the circle. White. And that's it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Actually, when I first wanted to write comics, which is before I really had read a lot of stuff, I had always felt like the best comics out there would be just two people just sitting there, not even facing each other and just talking, and really, capturing that well. To me, that was, quintessential, good comics.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, literally, that's kind of what I hoped to do with my stuff, and yet I never did. So when I read this, I was like, this is what I always wanted. You know what I mean? And it, it really shows how well Neil Gaiman can write different voices, which I always really appreciate. It means that you're empathetic, right? It means that you're not just obsessed with yourself, you know, like, you don't make everybody in your unique, witty voice. Everybody's different.
I do think there's sometimes criticisms that certain writers, it always sounds like the writer, not like the character.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, they get kind of in love with themselves, in my opinion.
No, they really do. But I think most writers do strive for different voices. I mean, that's kind of, you know, just like you would different faces, right? I mean, you could say that a lot about. There's a lot of great comic artists out there who kind of would be greater if they could draw two different kinds of faces. You know what I mean?
Well, I think those guys honestly do not value drawing different kinds of faces, and that's why they don't. I don't think they kind of like think, oh, that'd be nice if I could. I think it's not on their to-do list. I remember there was this one issue of it where they were explaining that everybody is the opposite of their persona or whatever, so death is all about life and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that made sense for her a little bit, but then it didn't feel consistent, like Dream, so he's just doesn't dream, he's just a realist? Is that the idea?
Well, maybe he's, you know, I mean, I think it's usually overstated when someone says, oh, it's really about just regular people's lives, but I think that's kind of what you could say. But, you know, that's, I don't know. I don't know who said that everyone's their opposite, because he's not a realist, and he's not really every one of us. Sandman has always been a story about stories, which is, you know, something you can spiral down into, you know, and sometimes get lost on. So it is grounded, and I think there are real characters that you care about. But, you know, I've never heard people say that, oh, they're the opposite of their aspects. So
No, it was just there's
Right.
an issue where they say that.
Right.
And it kind of makes sense because Delirium's, she always speaks the truth, you know.
Mm-hmm.
She's the least crazy, you know.
Well, I think all that mythology of the Endless, right, it really starts here. I mean, they mentioned death early on in the series, right, because that's who they were trying to capture, but they got Dream instead, and he's kind of, you know.
Yeah, that was something that when I reread this, I hadn't caught before, which is kind of cool.
But like I said, it's such a different issue tonally. Like, to be able to do this issue, 8 issues in, to an ongoing series, to really change up the pace. To me, that's the reason that you talk about it. That's the reason that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it really starts making Sandman the series what it is. And he announces it. It's like, you know, that's the opening scene in Washington Square Park. It's like, you know, what am I going to do with all of this?
It is a really good way to prepare people. And I mean, obviously, death visiting him is kind of, you know, a taste of things to come, right?
Sure.
I mean, I guess that's what a big purpose of it was, is that this next journey, which is going to be, you know, a lot of books worth, is a journey towards his own death.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting. Like and I know that you always like books where it's better on the second read, so that would be the case on this one.
No, absolutely. But it's, like I said, yeah, it's so foreign because I wonder what it came out, what people were expecting. So I didn't read Sandman when it was brand new. So people who have read the first 7 issues, this is, you know, Vertigo becoming what it is also. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's an exciting issue because it was about getting people kind of hooked, and not by great action or great conflict, but just by ideas and just by tone and just by creating characters in a book, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, it starts in Washington Square Park, passes Grace Church, which is right across the street from where I live. We kind of...
Yeah, we figured that one out.
Just spied that now on a reread, you know? But just kind of racing through all the different people and their experiences. It's just, you know, it's kind of...
As they die.
Yeah, it ties up the story, and just, again, all different voices, right? All different views.
It was so interesting, and yeah, like, the basic message is, like, that death is freeing. Although I still can't, like, empathize with that. Like, even through the story, I didn't go at the end like, oh, I guess I could see that. I was still like, I don't get it. Why would he want to die? Why does anybody want to die?
Really? I think it was kind of blunt. I mean, you know, it's the end of suffering, in a way. The end of anxiety. That's kind of her role, right? To make the return home, right?
I don't know.
You don't think?
I mean, I think it's just because I really, really like life. so it's hard for me to...
I don't think it's morose, though. I mean, I think
it's trying not to be, but to me it's very morose.
You know, I don't think it takes a religious stand, but it certainly has a, you know, it's certainly not, it's not,
stand.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's not an end, you know what I mean?
Yeah, in this story it's not. It's just a sort of continuation.
There's no anxiety, is what I'm saying. And you have some horrible things. I mean, some horrible moments. The little baby, you know, and the mother.
Yeah, I was thinking that was.
The baby doesn't care, but the devastation,
The
right? In
parent.
one panel of the mother.
Yeah. Change subject.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I don't know. It's so interesting to me, like death and how she somehow manages to be a happy person when she does that every day.
Well, it's her life.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it. She does all the dirty work.
Well, but that's not fair though, right? Because it's not dirty work. But draw the parallel. And I'm not trying to be cute. What's your job? Is making comics. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you want to do your thing. You want to have freedom. When I read this issue, it really opens the door for so many things that comics can be, And it's not that it's innovative. It's just that it was different. It had the balls to kind of discuss, what are we going to do with this story, and what am I going to do with this book?
Yeah. It's really interesting. I mean, honestly, until you said it, it never crossed my mind that he was really kind of sharing his inner dialogue on the story.
Well, like I said, I don't want to say that not knowing. Like I said, maybe he said it on the record or anything else, but certainly it was a part of it because he's moping around. It's like and he even talks about what he did in the first 7 issues. Oh, I got trapped and I recovered all these things, but now what am I gonna do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like and I think you can take a pretty easy leap, which is like, I've done that, and who cares? What am I going to do that people care about?
Yeah.
And just for a creator, and his first book, he did Black Orchid also, but that was a miniseries, but just kind of, he was obviously playing with some conservatism, holding back the first 7 issues.
Yeah.
And instead of jumping in with issue 8, and not holding back, it's a prelude saying, it's almost like it's like a warning, but also a cop out, and also like an excuse. It's like, oh well, all right, well I played the game. I'm not going to play the game anymore. I'm going to do it my way. But it doesn't quite do it here. Kind of, it is revolutionary in the sense that he says that, but then things are really going to start rolling after. I think that's why this fits nicely at the end of the first collection as opposed to the beginning of the second. It really is.
Well, mean, in a lot of ways, it fits better at the end of this one, for sure.
It really is a prelude of what's to come,
Yeah. It really made me want to continue reading the book.
And like you said, the cleverness of it, that you do that with death, is, well, it's kind of a different mystical interpretation of death being transformative, I think, But true, she doesn't take, but then again, he takes the piss out of it also because she doesn't take it seriously, So.
Yeah. Well, so was this your favorite issue? Do you think?
Of the series?
No, you liked the one where they retell Midsummer Night's Dream. Well,
there's the 2, right? And
The Tempest.
Yeah. Those are very good. But this one, isn't. And I don't listen. I wish, I could write something half as good, But it's not the best written thing he's ever done. There's still some clumsiness, I think.
Yeah.
Even this far into the series with issue 8, it's beautiful. I mean, to me, the clumsiness. It's not like I said. It's not like I would say, "Oh, go back and change a line here of dialogue here, or a line of dialogue there."
Mm-hmm.
The kid, especially, he's a brat, but he's a little bit, it's a little bit one-dimensional,
Mm-hmm.
And some of the things that Beth says is a little bit clumsy. But again, it's like it would be like going back and cleaning up some great live recording by a rock band or something. You're like, why do it? It's like, it is what it is.
It's good in its youth.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I don't know if it's even if it's not technically. My only point is it's a compliment that I'm trying to give.
Sure.
Even if it's not technically perfect, or if you could say, "Oh, this, that, or the other thing," it's just you wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing.
I hear you.
We were not in the business when Sandman was coming out. We were both too young.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to answer this question, but could you do it today?
Yeah, people are starting to do it today. You mean mid story?
If you're working for DC,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to change things up, and Sandman wasn't lighting sales on fire yet,
Mm-hmm.
it was still growing.
Yeah.
So yeah, what had happened? And Sandman wasn't creator owned. It wasn't his own thing. It was technically like a revamp of a character. Vertigo was doing more of that kind of stuff and interesting stuff with it, so it wasn't New 52, but would they let you do this? Anyplace else?
I don't think currently they would, but I think in a couple of years it might be the case, because you have to kind of realize that like during that time, wasn't that like also the time that there were like a lot of independents and stuff? Like, wasn't that the time that Matt Wagner was like taking tours everywhere with Grendel and everything?
Well, no. I mean, that would be like mid-'80s when there was a lot of independent stuff. And then '90s you had Image, and it was doing very well. But I think,
Well, I mean, that sort of stuff sends a message to the big two, and they start putting more faith in people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, the fact that we have this new movement going on, and also there's this whole, attitude lately based on technology that we don't need companies anymore, I think it's going to start being one of those things where companies start working for us again. You know what I mean? But it'll take 5 years.
Well, things are always cyclical, as they say.
Yeah. So no, not currently. Definitely not currently. I mean, I don't know, it'd have to be a book that really they don't care about, but it would have to sell well enough that they're not going to cancel it.
It just seems not to be on their radar, which is weird, It's like, because these are all done in the lifetimes of people who are working at and running Marvel and DC, There really is a focus on the core story, a focus on the core titles,
Yeah. No, I know. Like a lot of them don't really
and I think
know why things got successful.
And I think the publishers would say, well, hey, that's what people buy,
Yeah.
People want to buy Batman. People want to buy Wolverine, or Spider-Man. They don't want new takes. They don't want new, changes to the status quo.
But what's funny is I don't think they do a lot of studies on their actual, like, constituency or whatever. Like, I remember when I started doing covers on Supergirl, like, I met with the editors, and I mean, I was pretty naive. I don't know how things work. So I was just like, so what's the male to female ratio on readers of Supergirl?
Mm-hmm.
And they were, like, kind of, like, taken aback by me even asking that.
Right.
And they're like, well, we're ashamed to say that there's never been a study that's been done. Like, we have no information on that sort of thing.
Right.
And to me, I assume that they would know. It's weird that they don't. It's weird that they don't do research on their readership.
When you get somebody who's a Batwoman fan, as opposed to even Madame Xanadu, because I was not independent, but kind of independent, are there people that you meet who are great fans and love your stuff, and you know that they would never read Halloween Eve, they'll only read Batwoman, Or do you encounter that in reviews or anything? Do you ever get that vibe?
Not very often, but there's a few people like that. But they don't really even talk to me. They just come up and get me to sign something and walk away.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't mean like to call anybody out.
They're usually like not even veterans in it. Those are just like young kids, who don't really get it.
Right.
Like they're not like the main readership, which is now in their 30s or 40s. You know what I mean?
So you think people would, be willing to try? I mean, that's what everyone wishes. I think, a lot of times the powers that be of publishers have decided we've been burned, we've tried it, they don't care, so we'll do it our way. Which is why I think a lot of people are going, to Image now, and a lot of people are doing indie stuff.
Well, I mean,
create their own stuff.
The thing about comics, right, is that there's to me, there's no real standard of evaluation. There's no way for people to know, oh, this makes a good comic book. Like, I feel like in publishing, like, novels and stuff, it seems like people go to school over that stuff, on what makes a good book and what doesn't.
Mm.
And I feel like we're kind of at a loss when it comes to comics, and people who are editors can come from any background.
Right.
And so it creates something where unless you have a really awesome boss who really knows his stuff and just cares, unless you have that, it's really just going to be yes men that succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they get to the top, they want to get rid of competition, like Survivor, in my opinion. I mean, some people make it through that and still have some integrity, but I think it's just kind of like there's a problem there. Like the way that the industry is set up is not conducive to having good leadership and having people who can evaluate comics.
So whether it's today or 20 years ago, maybe The Antidote is doing a great book that people care about and people buy. Which is what
Yeah.
Gaiman and company did.
Exactly. You just kind of have to, like, just do it. I mean, but, yeah, I mean, that's what everybody's saying. Everybody's saying, like, you should just listen to the creators,
Mm-hmm.
And so far, it's like...
Well, creators are saying that.
No, I think audiences are saying that, and it's demonstrably true. You know what I mean? Like, it really is. So, I mean, who knows? But yeah, I mean, you really just need a great boss. Like Walt Disney. Then he dies, and then you're screwed.
Was he a great guy? I don't know.
I don't know. I think he was maybe a terrible guy,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
like he was very innovative.
I see.
He always came up with interesting things. He was very intelligent in that sense. You should watch like Darby O'Gill and the Little People. They have like a special features section that's very inspiring. I mean, it's funny. I like the parts that make it not the Sandman. I'm not into the short stories. I like all the stuff that continues it over time. So, and this felt like a big one of those. You know what I mean? I always just liked it when the Endless met together and developed their story.
Yeah. You liked following the plot of it all and the thread?
Yeah, to me that was definitely, like, I got kind of frustrated when I had to read the short stories.
Well, that's the hook, I guess, yeah, but
like, I'm, like, Delirium's by far my favorite, so every issue with Delirium, like, when she and the Sandman were, like, walking around, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, to me the soap opera aspects of it are the least interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, like, but I was totally hooked on that kind of stuff.
Right.
I loved it.
But to me, anybody can do that, you know? It's always how you do it, but, you know.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the side stories were everything.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'd feel differently if I read it again. I mean, it's been a long time.
Maybe I'd feel differently if I read it again.
Yeah, maybe you'd hate it.
No, I said it.
I'm just kidding.
It grows on you. And I'm usually contrary, so it's like, oh, Sandman, it's easy to say that it's great. I mean, it really is a masterpiece through and through. When I want to be contrary, I say Lucifer is better. And if you actually like, and I know you've never read Lucifer, right?
No, but I've heard good things.
If you kind of like you said...
Peter Gross?
Peter Gross did the art, who I love, and Mike Carey wrote it. But if you like the things where you have to read absolutely everything, and the overall story arc, the overall plot, becomes very compelling, you might even like Lucifer better than Sandman.
Really?
It's such a crazy story where everything then ties into each other by the end. So
I like that. Okay. Yeah, I'll look at it.
All right. So anyway, Podcorn.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, and again, we should give a thanks to Chris Robinson. Yeah, he's producing these for us. He can be found at Chris Robinson on Twitter. Amy can be found at
Amy Reader.
What about me?
And at B Montclair.
Yeah, too many letters in my name.
Montclare.
Chris Robinson put some funky music on these that we're now hearing.
Yeah, some like robot music.
Kind of, yeah. Well, it changes it up on every episode.
Yeah. So.
I wonder what he's doing this episode. I wonder what he's doing right now.
I know. What's he doing? You should cue it now, Chris. Cue it now.
If I ever get 7 issues under my belt of anything, I'm gonna rip the balls off it with issue 8, just because.
Yeah.
Just because of Sandman.
You're gonna do it Gaiman style.
That's it.
Oppa Gangnam style.